I just have a quick question. So you were fearful avoidant then, it sounds like.
I don't know. I feel like I'm leaning to, the fearful avoidant, like the disorganized one. I think that's the one that I was. So lots of abuse, lots of emotional neglect, a lot of responsibility thrown on like a very little, because I was the oldest of three, to like I was the parent. It was just utter chaos. And then also I had a parent that had borderline personality disorder. So when you're talking about swings, it's so loving and love bombing, and I'll buy you anything and take you anywhere, to like, you are the most inconvenient part of my life. And like that, it was chaotic. You know what I mean? So it's like, I had no idea what love was. And all my examples were the definition of toxic.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly, and one of the other big factors, just like addiction or alcoholism or having parents like that. One of the other ones is having a parent with a cluster B personality disorder, BPD, narcissistic personality disorder.
The other one had narcissism, the actual narcissism, not this thing that we throw around, which I would love to talk to you about too, because you do such a disservice when you just throw out these terms and diagnosis to every behavior that you don't like, or every personality that you don't like, because it takes the actual meaning away from the people that need to have those labels as like a warning sign. So do you think when it comes to like narcissism specifically, like there is this massive uptick in it, or do you think that it's kind of a misuse of the label?
I think a lot of times it's the misuse of the label. I'm not going to take away from the fact that like culturally there's things that are more likely to create that programming. Like, you know, there's things that are happening in our world, like social media, like, you know, things like that may create this outlet for people to develop more in that direction. But the vast majority of narcissistic personality disorder is probably developing way before people have. They say it really showcases itself in like the behavioral development years, like around like 13 to 16. But like, so you're probably seeing complex trauma at a very young age for people developing NPD. And honestly, sometimes what happens is that people will say this person's selfish, and because they're selfish, now they're a narcissist. And narcissism is so much more than that. It's grandiosity, it's manipulation, it's a lack of empathy, which is a huge deal. Exploiting, entitlement. Like there's so many things that just being selfish is not. And unfortunately, I do think that it's being thrown around a lot. And so going back to what you were saying too, like you have two parents, narcissist and borderline, like absolutely you're going to have a disorganized attachment style. Like there's almost no way that wouldn't be the case. And generally as well, the child who's most affected by having cluster B personality disordered parents, not to say that the other ones aren't, but it's often the oldest child that takes on the brunt of a lot of it. And so, so you would definitely see that kind of output as an adult to have fearful. And I was a fearful avoidant attachment style, so I relate. I understand. There's moments of like really wanting love and really wanting closeness, and also thinking like I'm choosing in my own independent way, but that sometimes it takes a lot to really realize all of the ways that we're trying to not allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and all the walls that are put up in all these sort of quiet forms and ways that they're so close to us we don't even realize that we're doing it. And so going back to what you had asked, like, how do you change your attachment style? So that's what we focus on. Like, it's all about, so my background originally was in like hypnotherapy and a lot of like NLP, the subconscious mind, and actually how we get our conditioned programs. And what we focus on is we put it into different buckets. So the first thing is we reprogram core wounds, because you're not born with them. And so we can recondition them. I'm happy to share like a tool about that later as well. The second bucket is we have to learn our own needs, because so much of how we give and receive love in relationships is through our needs. And there's this amazing body of work by Dr. Gary Chapman, and he talks about the 5 love languages. And he's like, you know, physical touch and acts of service and quality time and words of affirmation and gifts. And that's great. But like, we will never love as deeply as we do through our needs. Like, I have a big emotional connection need. And if I spend quality time with somebody watching a TV show, it's not the same as having a deep conversation. Like, the need for emotional connection will always supersede the love language of just quality time. So we have to learn what we need for love. And that's the biggest expression of how we give and receive to other people. And so our second bucket is we learn our own needs, so that we can then, third bucket, communicate them to others. And we can actually share how we receive love, and also understand how other people receive love through their unique set of needs. And then we learn communication, or then we learn boundaries, and we learn to upgrade into healthier behaviors, like not to cling or push away. And we can recondition those things too, leveraging principles of neuroplasticity and understanding the subconscious mind. And so when we can basically reverse engineer so that we get rid of the core wounds, we learn our own needs, we can communicate them to others and meet them ourselves really, and have better boundaries and healthier behaviors. Now we're in a situation where it's like, okay, we can actually emotionally regulate better, we can express better, we can give and receive love in healthier ways. And that actually puts us exactly into alignment with what securely attached people naturally do. They have less core wounds, they know their needs, they know how to communicate, they have healthy boundaries, and they have healthier behaviors when they feel stress, like to be vulnerable and hash things out instead of to ice out or cling or do all those different things that insecure attachment styles do. So those 5 pillars allow a framework for people to take the action steps necessary to re-implement in their sort of reset all the patterns that would be there had we had secure parents to begin with.
Now, this might sound a little woo, so bear with me if it's like not your thing.
Woo. I'm probably pretty good with the woo. Yeah.
Okay, good. My audience is used to it because I'm out there. But my oldest, his birth story was like almost as bad as it could be. Like he was born still, and they had to resuscitate him, and he was in like a hypothermic coma for 3 days, and they had to warm him up and like NICU for a week, which I know is not as long as a lot of babies, but like a week is still a lot. And I firmly believe that if he has an attachment style, which I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, if it's secure, it seems like it might be a little bit anxious. I basically am a stay-at-home mom and kind of have always been. Like I do the podcast and that's pretty much it. And then my husband also works from home. So like tons of quality time with both of us separately and together. I'm like my version of why he might be anxious is his birth story. And I really believe birth stories affect us. And I think even like in utero, what happens, and I'll even go as far as saying epigenetics and your ancestry line. So I think all of these things can have an effect on our behavior and our relationships and just how we interface with the world.